Hi, welcome. On this video, I'm going to be continuing my breakdown series by way of video put up by the Anti-Dog Trainer talking about the core ingredients I talk about influence and control and how they're reconciled through a intentional interaction-based approach. Now, this series, as I move forward, going to be exclusively on my Rumble channel. And so I'm going to be kind of focusing more on Rumble for content. And so again, continue to respond here. Now again, my last video, I talked about this whole rush forward with off leash, off leash, off leash, off. And so, but the question again you have to ask is, well, can the pitcher be trusted? Okay, how do you actually, discern that, the perception of a dog have changed the right way? Okay, when you get to this point of training where a dog is off leash. Now, talk about the core ingredients, establishing that, okay, in terms of the assessment. And so, again, when I'm helping dog owners, I'm going into a situation with a relationship problem. That's what I'm doing, okay? I'm connecting the dots so that people can line it up to say, oh, okay, I understand now why my dog is this way in the situation or expressing control in this situation. And the picture that you're seeing with the dog just kind of roaming around your home is a deceptive picture, okay? But think of it this way, a selfish child can look well behaved most of the day while they're doing what they want to do, but it's the moments that, right, reveal, they say, the bad attitude of the child when the parent is engaged a certain way. Say putting a demand, putting parental influence, okay, on the child. But again, the same thing in terms of change itself. Okay, it's the parents engaging how they're getting in the child's airspace, the type of interpersonal dynamics, even the type of conversations. I talk about that, that are meaningful, that are going to reveal, but going to change. Okay, so your role, it's again, the relationship with your dog. Dogs are social animals, is absolutely critical. But again, this is the whole point of contention here. I understand that trainers are so focused on appearances. There's a lack of depth. Okay, there's a lack of connecting dots. There's a lack of context, and there needs to be. Because again, if you start to line the stuff up, it's just how common it is to end up with a counterfeit pitcher or change or a ongoing relationship problem, even after spending time and money and energy into this idea of things, things start to make sense. So here, I'm gonna play some more of this video. Again, this is Kevin Murdoch talking about his idea of things. He talks about Grey Goose. He talks about Grey Goose off leash like within a day. And I talk about the problems with this whole rush forward and why it's important, okay, that that the core ingredients come together, that the right conversation between you and your dog are happening to establish a intentional, predictable outcome. Absolutely critical. So let's play some more of this.
She was very resistant on the leash. She was trying to run back to the adoption or the animal hospital.
So here's talking about the information he was getting before getting Grey Goose. What the person was telling him was some of Grey Goose's issues here.
But I took her home, and things happened very quickly.
So of course they happen quickly, right? If your focus is off leash, if it's not bringing those core ingredients together properly, this whole rush. But my question is, what's the rush? Like, shouldn't you be interested in or focused on getting the right foundation? Like, that's the thing that kills me about a lot of these trainers. It's like the show, right? They want the picture. Of course, dog owners, they want that, right? They want the Christmas postcard picture, but we want to make sure the picture is not a counterfeit. Okay, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, so what I'm doing when you see what my videos, they'll look kind of boring, right? It's like because I'm having a certain type of conversation, right? It's not all this flash and the dogs are off leash and the dog is, a mile. You see some of these trainers like the Cluxton guy talking about the quarter mile, or the 1 mile challenge. What's the challenge, right? I mean, dog could respond by way of coming for something they want to, control, treats. What's the point of a challenge based on response if it's a faulty picture? Like, see, you have and these trainers are so hardwired into it. It's like they can't get their head around certain things I'm talking about because that's the point. They're hardwired into this stuff. It's like you should want to get the point because that's critical, right? If it's all about the right picture, you should want to know.
So there was, at that point, there was no need. It's like, all right, I'm going to phase the leash out because I don't need it. I don't need it. She's demonstrating to me that this leader-follower dynamic, she understands her place.
But again, talk about the type of attachment. At what level is that attachment based on possessiveness? What are the motives that underpin those responses? Are they aligned properly? In the service dog training world, I mean, so much, you look at the state of it, and I do service dog training, so much of these dogs are out in the public, they're in that's a possessive attachment. And the dogs can't perform a specific task, such as picking an object up off the floor, because that requires a level of focus that just isn't there. Okay, how does it get there? It comes through perceptions changing the way I describe. That's what generates that type of focus. So even service dog training, I go through a sequence to make sure that the relationship is going in the right direction first, right? There's perception change in the right way. The attachment, okay, is based on true connection. Okay, perception change in the right way, and then you get into the response side of things. Okay, it's all about a sequence.
She's taking on a follower mentality.
Was that based on what?
And that's what I need.
That's an assumption. This whole generalized language. You see this in the dog training world a lot. Trainers just use certain language, just like just trust. This is why even the word behavior is misrepresented. That word behavior by many trainers is used within the framework of superficial responses. Like they're trying to gin up these appearances to say, well, trust that, it is what it seems to be. Oftentimes it's just a superficial response happening. Nothing's actually changing. So certain words, these trainers bring certain language into their process or into their idea things doesn't even align. Okay, it's superficial. Everything's superficial.
Now, when you have a dog who, the process is going to look different. Well, the process is the same for every dog, but it's going to, the amount of time it takes to get a dog off leash is going to look different dog to dog. Like Grizzy, for instance, we didn't start playing around with Grizzy being off leash till after he was a year old.
So after a year old, right? Because then the other question is, okay, here's the other thing. They talk about trainers get locked into the situation where it's like managing a problem situation, never fixing anything, or it takes forever, right? It's because the integrity of those core ingredients coming together in a way that creates change. So if your idea about leash isn't right, okay, then yeah, you could be, managing a problem or have a dog on the leash forever, and because you're not getting anywhere. And then when you do release the leash, you still got a problem. Okay, so understand that it's a secret, right? It's intentional. So when trainers start talking certain ways, you can't trust anything they're saying because you know that their starting point isn't right. Okay, those core ingredients they have to align, and the only way that happens is through a intentional interaction based approach that speaks the right language. Okay, that's it.
So that was like 8 months after his owners had gotten him. He just wasn't ready for it. So, that was a process that took some time. But now we are experimenting with him being off leash, and it's going well so far.
Going well so far. What does that even mean? Based on what? See, that's the thing. Is like when you get this down to actually like the nuts and bolts of things, and you get specific as to the process itself. It's defined properly. You do know. Okay, there's no guesswork involved. Because I wouldn't, like I said, what these trainers are saying, I wouldn't trust what they're saying. Like I wouldn't, because the starting point ain't right. Okay, that's it. And not just going for this trend, but I'm talking about balance trainers, force-free trainers. I mean, it's all the same thing. Why do you think the dog training world's in the state that it's in? Okay, it's a mess.
Especially with his owners. But if you take the leash off the dog and that dog has the freedom to do whatever it wants, yet that dog is choosing to follow you, choosing to listen to you, choosing to
see, that's it's context. Because again, the starting point ain't right. So how do you know? You don't. Then he's saying choosing to, well, what's the motives that underpin those responses? They could be completely sideways. It's context, right? Just think about what I'm saying, because control itself within the relationship becomes its own motivating agent. Really think about write that down. Once you've signed a contract with the dog, once it's the same thing as a child that goes to a certain parent all the time because they get their ice cream. So to say that to frame this up to make certain statements, you don't know what the whole thing with the following part, like what level, how much of that is based on a possessive type of connection, and those responses that follow off of that. How sideways are they? See, this you have to get into this whole thing with what underpins everything. So when these trainers I can tell you that if there's, which is the case here, if the starting point ain't right, okay, because they have a different idea of things, getting a dog off leash and how they engage a relationship problem. So that the stuff is going to be sideways anyway. Just understand that to a certain level with a lot of dogs. That's a reality, okay?
Respect the rules, the boundaries, adhering to whatever direction you are giving, then that is a clear demonstration that you have influenced the dog correctly and you are in control.
And you are in control. Like, really? Like I said, I mean, this is all based on trust the pitcher, right? Because the criteria isn't established properly. Okay, this is all just trust what I'm saying. You're in control. Yeah, based on what? Again, so understand that when everything defaults back to that, it's the starting point. That's why when people go on about why I don't watch, their entire video, like they're here, it's like, I think a couple of hours of him walking Grey Goose off leash. Oh, I don't watch the whole thing. I skim through it. Well, that's the point of everything, is to say the starting point. That's why I keep defaulting back, right? Saying, okay, and then, because here he's making all these statements about off leash and trust and control. Now, no, I mean, let's default back. There's no way to know, right? I mean, because it's context. Right? This is all based on assumptions, because the criteria I talk about, it wasn't present the way I described, wasn't defined the way I described. All right, they're always going to go back to that, but you can line the stuff up, okay, and you can put everything to the test that I'm saying. Go watch my videos. Everything I talk about, you can put to the test. So it's one thing because what he's doing here, he's just making generalized statements, and there's nothing you can grab a hold of per se at all. Here, what I'm talking about, the way the system of training is, you can take a hold of all of it and line it up and test it, because it's specific, right? It's specific. So we'll stop this part here, part 5. I'm going to do a couple more parts here as we go through, but you're going to see me defaulting back. That's why people complain, oh, Dale says the same thing every time on a lot of it. Well, yeah, of course I do, because there's a sequence, okay? There's a process. These trainers start talking about and they use language a certain way. It's like, okay, let's talk through this, because some of the language doesn't even connect properly. They're making assumptions here on appearances, and they're selling that to the public. So, but again, the dog training world's in a state that it's in for a reason. Context is everything, but the foundation, okay, your jumping in point, the starting point of the actual training process itself, it's absolutely critical. That's where it all begins. That's what establishes change, right? That's how it's established. It's the right conversation, but those core ingredients he's talking about here, influence and control, they have to be established properly, and they're not. Okay. Thanks for watching.